Hello and welcome to the Uneducated PT podcast with me, your host, Carl O'Rourke. The goal of this podcast is to bring on interesting and knowledgeable people from all walks of life, learn a little something from each conversation, and for you, the listener, to learn something from each episode. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the box below, show some support, and I'll see you on the next episode. Okay, number one. Even I've had strong biases in the past that I cringe at now, but think about how much this stuff actually benefits you. So my question to you is, how can we avoid or reduce our actions and thoughts that might be manipulated by others? Because I know you spoke about this on your page.
I would probably say this comes down to a lot of self-auditing, when you're looking at biases and opinions in anywhere in your life based on relationships or, careers or fitness and all these things, they come from somewhere, and they always come from like what your experiences have been, but also what you're currently inspired by.
Mm.
For example, if I'm really into, I'm going to use Jordan Peterson, for example, because he keeps appearing on my Facebook ads at the moment. If you're really into his stuff at the moment, then you're going to consume all his stuff. You're going to listen to podcasts, you're going to watch YouTube. So you're just going to collect his points of views, but they're not yours. You're just kind of collecting them, and you're almost being manipulated by them and saying, okay, he says this. I totally get it now. I totally get it. And he may open up, or or the environment or someone else, it may open up a new pathway for you, which is helping you think differently. But realistically, what it should be doing, and we're bad at this, and this is something I've learned over time, is it's take what's useful and then making your own interpretation of it. But what tends to happen is people will look at this information or this experience and say, this is what it is, and they completely discard everything they've known or they've believed, their values or their principles. They completely abandon it, and this is their new thought process, and this is their new action. And this also, and like I said in the quote, this can be really dangerous because it becomes a bias. You now only see this. And if you look at things from like the fitness industry at the moment, you know yourself, mate, whenever you go into somebody's profile and they've got in their bio, like carnivore, the carnivore code, or I'm a CrossFitter or something, that is all they see, and anything else threatens that. And if something threatens that, then they go on the attack. It means they're unwilling to listen. They're unwilling to be open-minded and say, oh, okay, I see your point of view. I don't particularly agree, but I respect it. So instead, they just go on the attack, and they protect that bias even more, so they almost like double up. Now, I'm sure you've been the same, mate. I've done it, like again I remember when I used to be flexible dieter, for me, because I loved helping people understand that there's freedom of food, freedom of choice, and whatnot. And at the time where flexible dieting was the thing, I was like, oh, flexible dieting, you can eat what you want, da 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 da. But in truth, you can't eat what you want. And through flexible dieting, what I learned over time was giving people too much to think about and too much decision making can actually cause issues. So again, flexible dieting is a nice tool to have, but it's not the only tool. And it's the same when, I did a bit of bodybuilding, and I realized the issues that came along with it, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, da 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 da. So then I transitioned into powerlifting, but I loved powerlifting because of it was more supportive. I felt more empowered. I felt stronger. I loved steering myself toward like performance and what I could do as opposed to how I looked. But then what happened there is I never subscribed to being a powerlifter. Like I never did the whole CrossFit thing. Like I never once went, I'm a powerlifter. And I never once delved into it. I just kind of enjoyed it. However, what it did was because it gave me something, I then became anti bodybuilding. And I was like, everything about bodybuilding, I hated it. Da 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 da. I tried to manipulate others with my opinions and whatnot. But bodybuilding is great. It's competitive bodybuilding. It's can be problematic, you know. But again, this is something I learned over time, and this is something that through some form of reflective practice is really, really important. But again, you know yourself, mate, this is something that takes practice. It's a way of thinking. If it's drilled into you, then you cannot just change it overnight or by reading a book or by listening to a podcast or, you know, it takes something that you're going to have to show up and pull yourself up on, you know, and instead of just listening to someone, it's doing that self-auditing and saying, hey, what does this mean? Or if you're going to say something, I'll give you an example. I'm chatting to a guy in DMs at the moment, and he told me some stuff that he'd been doing, and it wasn't healthy. It wasn't great at all. And I typed out some stuff, and I almost went into fix it mode. And then I just stopped and went, hold on a sec, hold on a sec. You know this stuff. He doesn't. It's his current beliefs. So if you then try and go into fix it mode or whatever, you could make him feel stupid. He might get defensive or whatever. And I was like, he's in this conversation because he's asking for help. He might be doing it subliminally, but he's asking for help. So listen to him. Like, don't try and stoke anything, stoke the fire or anything like that. Just let the conversation open up. And I was like, but again, for me, when I sat back, I was like, oh, a previous version of me wouldn't have done that. A previous version of me wouldn't have stopped, like drew a line and went, hey, let's think about this. Why are you saying this? And who is it benefiting? Is it making you feel great because you get your coaching hat on? Or um, you know, how do you want this conversation to go? How do you want this person to feel by being in this conversation? So
Mm.
again, just moments like that. I know I even notice it myself, you know, it's yeah.
Well, I think that's why social media is actually so toxic at the moment, and there's so many arguments on social media about different people's beliefs because, like, you're right. It's social media and just the internet in general. Like it's just a supercomputer that if you like something, it's gonna just show you more of that. And like you might, subconsciously like something or someone made a good point and you like it, and then three or four more videos comes up like that, and six or seven more videos comes up like that, and then before you know it, your whole feed is surrounded by this one belief that now you're so down the rabbit hole you don't know how to kind of come back out of it. And that's where people's extreme views can come from, and that's where they can, like, their identity will come from. Like you touch on, like, the carnivore diet there. Like, so you'll have people with the the carnivore in their name, so that is their identity now. So it makes it so if you challenge that identity, regardless if someone's pointed with the facts, they are still going to, fight back against that, because you're not just criticizing what they believe. Now you're criticizing them because they are that belief, because they have, created that as their identity. And that's a really, like you said, it's like you can't coach someone out of that, or you can't shout at someone for change and something like that. You have to let them come out of it themselves, which can take a long time.
Yeah. You'll notice it with clients as well. I mean, I've had clients who are ready, you know, they are at the point where they're fed up. They've tried, you know, they've tried different things, whether it's coaches, trends, they've tried to go on their own, whatever it is, but they're now open to change and they're open to trust in the process. But equally, and again, any good coach will attest to this. But then you'll get clients, it just doesn't work, you
Mm.
know, because they dig their heels in so hard, and regardless of how many different approaches and stuff you do, you know, they might be hanging on to something, They might be hanging on to an old belief, an old experience. Even it might be the environment they're in, whether it's digital or in person. Something there's just an unwillingness to let go of that. So sometimes people just never get there, but then sometimes it does require just being patient. Being patient with the person, and but one of the other things on that as well, and obviously this is the power of social media, especially on TikTok, where if you if you watch, like at the moment, I'm a huge, yourself, I'm a huge comic book guy, absolutely loving Deadpool and Wolverine, loving the marketing, everything around it. But at the moment, every time I open TikTok now, it's like bye bye bye. I'm like, oh no, like I'm actually getting sick of this song now. It's but but if you're in a hole, like if you're in a hole, like you're having a trouble with a diet or a relationship or something, so you watch a couple of videos on this, all of a sudden you start just getting it over and over again, and it's overly consuming.
I suppose that's how a lot of people fall into the diet culture trap as well. It's like they might put in something like how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. And then
Oh,
all that starts to come up in their feed is, all that type of rhetoric to get them to lose weight essentially.
mm.
And
Yeah,
then
that's actually something I recently was speaking about this to one of my clients. I actually just spoke about him on my stories today. So he's on a fat loss phase, and we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me, "So how much more weight do you think I need to lose?" And I says, "No, no, 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 no. Let's draw a line under that. This isn't we're not playing that game. We're not playing oh, you need to lose 3 more kilos." I was like, you've got to take all these things into consideration. You're gaining muscle, and you're retaining glycogen and all these things. I was like, this isn't about how much weight you need to lose in an X amount of days. This is about getting to a point where you can look at yourself and go, I absolutely love what I see at the moment. I'm good here. But you know yourself, mate, you see these like stories and bios. I can help you lose 10 kilos in 7 weeks. Cool. Well, what if you have a male that's 120 kilos and you've got a female that's 65 kilos? That 10 kilos in 8 weeks is going to look very, very different to both
massively
of them.
different. The
So,
sacrifice for each one of them kilos is massively different. So I
yeah.
think it's absolutely wild when people throw out them offers that like doesn't matter who it is across the board, whether you're 60 kilos or 100 kilos, you'll lose 10 kilos in 7 weeks. I think it's crazy.
Nuts.
It just basically means that that person's full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you mentioned this before. That this is obviously the difficult thing with social media. I don't know if it's getting better or worse.
Mm.
I genuinely thought social media and the fitness industry was getting better, but
That's your
through
bias. That's
conversation,
your bias from the coaches that you follow, probably.
I well, this is exactly it. My environment, my echo chamber.
Mm.
Like obviously conversations and I consume personalities and points of view and stuff like that from people like yourself and Lane Norton, Amelia Thompson, all these people, and it's like cool, cool, cool. They're strong voices here, but then through reaction videos and even through some of the DMs, like I said, sometimes people will share who they follow or if they've got a coach, what their plan is and stuff. And it blows my mind, man. I'm just thinking, like, this can't, like, it cannot still exist,
Mm.
but it does. And it's obviously a lot more prominent and a lot more stronger than what I felt, was true.
I think on the critical thinking side of things, and I heard this on a podcast before. It's like if you know a person, if you know every point of view that a person has, then like that person isn't a critical thinker. Like when's the last time someone said something that you were like, oh, that surprised me that that person said that? Like that's the type of people that you should probably follow because, you
Yeah.
know, otherwise it's just people, you know, they put themselves into a camp and they're not really thinking, they're just blindly, you know, giving out disinformation. I actually, so I've got really into politics over the last couple of months to my detriment. And there's actually a really good app that you can put on your computer where, you know, let's say I like something that is quite right wing, and then everything pops up right wing, and that's how you kind of fall into that trap of you know, following all the belief systems and everything that they believe on that side. Or let's say it's on the left and I'm doing the exact same thing, and then I'm following all the belief systems on that side rather than thinking critically about each topic or
Mm.
subject. So or being down the center. So there's this thing that you can I can't remember the name of it, but it can basically strip your computer so it's not just following the algorithm of what you're consuming. It will give you like half of the news from the left, half of the news from the right, or a third, say, and then a third down the center. So let's say there's a certain topic that's coming up, you're getting point of views from each side, so you're not being blindly followed by one side, and you can actually just look at all the different points of view, and then you can make a critical decision for yourself how you think about that topic.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's really good. I found it there the other week, and I was like, oh, I need to have that because otherwise it'd be very easy for me to just fall down the rabbit hole of a certain,
yeah.
you know, belief system
It's
and that
interesting.
echo chamber.
It's really interesting you say that because I've always been like a bit of an armchair political guy, you know. You fall into that trap of nothing good can come from politics. But again, how about you inform yourself and you know, whatever. But then I've had so many questions being in Latin America of people asking questions on like UK and Scottish politics and stuff. And again, I've had to pull myself out a couple of times and go, here, look, this is what I know.
Yeah,
And if I give a certain opinion, I'll say, look,
yeah.
this is my bias, this is my belief. But take that with a pinch of salt type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think when you have that approach of when you know your limitations, that's a good thing. It's I think most people are just blindly following information and they take that as, you know, the gospel truth because someone told them
Ah,
without really critically thinking. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing on biases and just critically thinking, okay, is this thought process actually a positive impact on my life or not. And I think that can come with politics. Think it can come with your health and fitness. I think it can come with any subject. So I think that was a really interesting
just,
piece of writing that you put up.
just be curious, you know,
Yeah,
ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but also I'd also say probably ask questions outside of your echo chamber as well, you know?
exactly. Yeah. You should want to be challenged on your belief systems, you know, because
Mm.
then you can really see how well they hold up and how well you you really believe the things that you believe. Another one that I wanted to go through, which is when I have more time, when things are less busy, when I'm more motivated. These things can often mean I don't value myself. Can you elaborate on that one?
The last part on there with the motivation thing, this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently because I mean, I've played this card, I'm sure you have as well, and I see it a lot online where with the whole motivation thing and whatnot. Now, the I actually saw one of these posts yesterday. It's not someone I follow, it's someone I follow. They shared another coach's, hey, I'm looking for five highly motivated, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, 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 no. If they were motivated, they wouldn't need a coach. Like the reason that people seek help is because they don't have it. Like they don't know how, they may not understand it. They may not be going through certain channels to feel that way and whatnot. Like no one is looking for help who is already motivated. Like it's as simple as that. Um, The first 2 points, again, I kind of touch on this because it's such a common thing, whenever people are inactive or unwilling to make any form of change. Like it doesn't need to be, world changing. It can just be whatever, for example, at the moment, I'm trying to improve my reading. Now, I would love to be one of these people who just churns through books. I'm not that person, and I'm okay with that. But I still love reading. I still want to do it. Now, if I turn around and say, oh, you know what, like I really want to read, and if we had a conversation about this, and if this went on for months and months, and every time we spoke, and I'd say, and you'd say, oh, how's the reading going? Oh, I'm not started yet. And it's just an unwillingness to do it. I'm just saying it. It's just verbal. It's verbal vomit. So I don't value reading. I don't value what I gain from it or the experience of it and whatnot. I just keep saying it. So if I don't value it, then I'm unwilling to do it. So I'll just keep saying these common narratives. So whenever you get people saying things like, "Oh yeah, well, I wish I had more time to go to the gym." No, you do, like you genuinely do. If you don't have time to go to the gym, maybe you should look at changing the gym to somewhere that is going to accommodate your time constraints, or even training at home. I mean are you going to get a 200 kilo squat in your living room? No. But are you going to get stronger, fitter, and build some muscle? Of course you will. But
Do
it's,
you think that people they like the idea of training, reading, whatever that goal is, or that looks like a good goal. I like the idea of it more so than they actually really want to do it, because if they really wanted to do it, they'd probably do it.
yeah, I agree with you there. They like the idea of it. Um, I'd probably also say they may feel like they need to do it.
Mm.
Maybe like I said, coming back to the echo chamber thing, they may be in like some friends or their feed or whatever, and it's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this and stuff, and so
Do you
they
think
they
it can
may.
come? Do you think it can come from guilt? Like, oh, I should do this. I probably should read more. I probably
Guilt,
should exercise more.
guilt, shame,
Yeah.
they may not like how they feel, they may not like how they look, but there's an unwillingness to change it. But then this isn't me or us putting a spotlight on people. Like I said, saying like, no, you totally should, you
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely should. It's like you may not know how to, because yourself, I talk about this all the time on social media. It's like if I actually did a post on this yesterday where I says use fitness profiles or extreme fitness profiles at least, to get an idea of what you don't want. Like if you're following someone and they're like, "Hey guys, this is what I eat in a day, and I get up and I make my like fancy breakfast or whatever,
but at
and
4
then
a.m. in the morning.
exactly then I'm gonna go and get my steps in, and then and then I'm gonna go for my workout, and then I'm basically just farting about." And it's like, well, that's cool. It looks like they've got zero responsibilities, and it looks like they look like they've never really struggled. Um, so they're basically saying, "This is what I do. I have this because I do this, so this is what you need to do." Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like Joe Fitness. I'm not. It's like absolutely not. Yes, I enjoy training 2/3 of the time. Um, you won't see me going out and counting my steps. I'll go out to go for a nice walk. Like I always say to clients, like look at quality over quantity. Like quantity is important. The metrics are important depending on your goal, how you're measuring that. But if you're not gaining the quality of it, then everything that you're doing is going to be based on a metric. So if you're looking at like and this is where I kind of feel like it kind of comes back to the whole motivation, the time thing and stuff like that. It feels like a metric compared to quality.
Yeah,
Like, are they
the
looking at,
quality is intrinsic, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. It's like, how do you want to feel? Like, how do you want to show up? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to communicate? How do you want your confidence to radiate, your self-belief and all these types of things? Cool. Then what's going to match that at the moment? What are you capable of doing? But the first thing is people commonly just look at the high level thing. Like I said, I kind of come back to obsessed fitness folk or whatever, or they'll look at like some top level academic or something and be like, oh yeah, I wish I could do that. It's like, no, no, no. I mean, it's cool if you wish you could do that, but do you really wish you could do that? How
Mm.
about like let's take an interest in it instead? And I kind of come back to the reading thing. So I basically simplified it and I says, look, I'm not going to be one of these people that's going to churn through a book a week. And at the end of the year, I'll be able to put my Facebook post up and go, these are all the books that I've read. Like I'm not that person. But I do want to read. So what I simply did was I'm going to read for 15 minutes a day. I've got 15 minutes. Like I 100% have 15 minutes in a day. So I looked at the part of my day where I'm going to be more attentive, which is first thing in the morning. Once I'm up and I've got a coffee and whatnot, I just sit on the bed or the sofa or whatever it is, and I set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes and I just read. I don't try and speed read. I don't try and dissect everything. Like, for example, this morning and yesterday, I'm reading a section in a book. I'm just not taking it in. But rather than putting pressure on myself, I just went, oh, maybe I'm just not finding this part of the book interesting. But that's okay. Like, it's part of the journey. Like, it's not always going to be interesting. It's not always going to be like high five, let's stick on my stories or whatever. Sometimes you're just going to have to go through the shit, and take it. So it's yes, put in 15 minutes yesterday, 15 minutes today, and I'll do it again tomorrow. So at the end of the week, I've got, at minimum, what, like an hour and a half of reading.
Well,
I don't, I don't,
I think a big mistake then people make is even when you said when I have more time, when things are less busy, that also comes to probably people thinking that they have to do more than is necessary, where you have broke that into, small bites that are still meaningful that will you compound over time, but without overwhelming you, where that's probably a trap that a lot of people fall into
yeah.
of thinking that they have to do more than they're currently doing.
And that's it. And if they attempt to do more, but they can't, then they feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And then it's like, why can't I do this? It should be easy. Like Joe Blogs thinks it's easy. One of my clients at the moment, he's from Toronto. He's working on a startup and he's moving to New York in 3 weeks. And we had a catch up last week, and he basically said he's trying to work on a specific habit at the moment. And he says, oh, I'm taking advantage of the weeks on the lead up to the move. So I'm just doubling up on work at the moment. So he says, so should I just kind of put this habit into the back burner and wait until I get to New York? And I just went, no, let's not do that, because if you then drop the habit completely, then we need to rebuild it when you get to New York, and there might be too much friction there. So what we're gonna let's how about we focus on anchor points? So I says, look, can we do the habit twice a week? Can we do it like on a Tuesday and on a Sunday? And in that point, and because of that, it's not going to be groundbreaking. But what we've done is we've created two anchor points where we're retaining it, and it's still a part of your life. So all we're doing is taking it down a couple of gears. And then once we get to New York and you're settled, then we can go up a gear 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and it's easier to do. And it kind of comes back to, like you said before, it's almost like this all or nothing thing. If I can't do everything, I'm going to do nothing. And it's like, no, no, no. Like success happens in the gray area of the spectrum. And And but it's helping people know that. Like I'm sure you come across it with clients. I do. Even people who aren't clients, if I have a conversation and I help them understand that, they're like, "Oh, I've never thought of that." And it's like it just doesn't seem to be a common thing, but it should be, you
Yeah,
know?
extremes are easy. It's that gray area that is difficult for people, and it's difficult for me. I'm sure it's difficult for you as well. It's moderation is what's hard. And another real good point that you made there is even like, okay, I'm not enjoying. Nothing's registering in this part of where I'm reading, and instead of you being like, oh, you know. I'm crap at reading, I just can't concentrate, there's something wrong with me. Instead of blaming yourself, you accepted that, oh, this is just part of the process. I won't enjoy all of it. And I think that's really a good point. If we relate that back to the client, whether it's on their fitness journey, it's like, you know, you won't feel motivated all the time, or you won't have the greatest workout all the time, or you will miss a session or two. And that's not a reason to berate yourself and be like, oh, I'm such a failure and just quit. It's just to accept that, well, this is part of the process and I'm only human. And maybe I actually just don't enjoy this type of exercise or movement as much as I could something else.
Yeah. I would always say as well, something I've been talking a lot about recently is show up with intensity, you know? I mean, I said it, I can't remember where I said it. I think it was on one of my posts last week or something. I said, look, if you've only got 60% that day, like give 100% of that 60. Like don't go, oh, well, I got 60, so I'm just gonna mosey through it and hope it and hope it ends soon. It's like, no, 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 then you just may as well not show up. Like if that's all you've got, then put in effort into that, what you have there, you know?
Yeah. Well, once you take that action and you give that 100%, whatever that 100% looks like that day, you tend to feel better anyway, and that will create that kind of bit of momentum that you need. Another quote that I wanted to go in with you, and you touched on body dysmorphia there a minute ago. It goes to look back on photos and videos without the video in the back of your head that's focusing on how you look. Can you tell me a little bit about what contributed to your body image issues, how you solved them? For any listeners that might be struggling today, how can they improve that issue that they might have?
Yeah. I can only speak from my experience, of
Yeah.
course, and my experience coaching people. Um, oh, where do I begin with this one? Um,
What I suppose begin with what do you think were the components that contributed to the problem in your own experience?
you know what? I'm trying to put myself back into that version of myself. Um, you'll see there's one specific photo that I've posted a number of times, but it's me. It's me in a bar and I'm holding a pint. It was actually my trigger photo. When I saw it, like I genuinely thought I was looking forward to seeing that photo. You know, I was out with my cousin and some friends, and I was looking forward to it. And when my cousin posted it on Facebook, I was just mortified. I just thought that's not how I look. Hey, it's not how I look, and I was like, well, it is. You know, I mean, in my eyes, like I looked like a mess, and I just thought, is this how people see me? You know, is this how I am? And but even before that, I would oftentimes show up in photos if it was a group photo, like when I was at my worst. Good old, my worst, I think it was 143 kilos. And when I was at that, I would never take a photo on my own or with one-on-one with someone. It would always be, I would always try and angle my body in a certain way or stand behind a group and whatnot. So I've actually got zero photos of myself when I was at my worst because I was always hiding, you know? And one of the other things I always did as well is I never smiled. Like my smile would be that weird, like I would keep my mouth would be closed. It would just be like a wide. uncomfortable looking smile. And I feel sad about that sometimes, because I look back in so many moments and experiences, and I looked uncomfortable. It wasn't like a big radiant smile. Like if you look at all my smile, like photos now, dude, I love smiling. I love laughing. And any opportunity I get, whenever there's a photo and stuff like that, it's just natural. It's me now. But it makes me sad when I look back on those moments. But one of the things for me was, and this, you know what, I feel like this is an important thing, and this is actually something I only thought about last week, was my body dysmorphia got worse when I started to get into fitness.
Mm. Where it's so funny because some people who are suffering from body image think if I get in better shape, that will solve the problem.
Exactly. So again, I joined like the local DW gym, and then there's pressure. You see people in like the stringer vests and stuff, like people wearing certain things to train and whatnot. And when I started to kind of get in shape, it was almost like I gave myself permission to wear certain things. And I felt like that would be like a confidence thing. But it was really interesting. So when I look back, I remember when I got into decent shape, like I built a decent amount of muscle. I was losing fat. But I remember that there were so many instances where I wanted to have conversations with people, but I couldn't. So I felt like my being in shape would almost be like a bit of a hall pass, to say, hey, like I'm in better shape now. Why do more people not talk to me? And again, it became because it was like I'd left the old person behind, so I was bringing my body forward and my health and fitness levels, but I didn't do the work mentally or emotionally. So inside, I was still that guy. I was still that like really overweight guy who was nervous, who didn't know how to have conversations, who didn't smile, all these different types of things. But even then, when I started, it kind of shines through every so often. I spoke about it recently when I did that. When I was on the beach and there was a photographer and he asked if he could take a portrait of me. And I was like, oh, cool, And in my head, I was like, oh, it's going to be like Jason Momoa, coming out the sea. I'm going to look awesome. Bottle of whiskey and a cigar and stuff. And the next day, he sent me the photo, and that trigger it was like 10. It was out of 10. And I immediately remember looking at it and going, oh, that is not how I thought I'd look. And then again, but this is the self-awareness thing. I just pulled it up and went, whoa, 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 hold on a sec here. You look pretty good, and that was a cool experience. The guy asked you for a reason, all these different things. And so I now treasure the photo. I treasure the experience. But then this is where, and again, I cannot give a resolution. I cannot give, hey, this is what you should do or shouldn't do.
Mm.
But if there's a reason that you feel uncomfortable in these moments, in videos or photos and stuff like that, because look at the amount of times people will, you've probably come across it yourself, where there's a photo and you look at it with someone and they'll immediately go, oh, I hate this photo. Look at my leg, or look at this. And you don't even see it. You don't see it, but they see it because that is their automatic. I need to scan myself to see if I look good in this photo, to see if I like the photo. But they're not going to. They're never going to, because they've not done the work to accept their body. So they're so used to, like I said before, they're so used to being at a certain angle or doing a certain filter or positioning themselves in a certain way. But if there's a candid photo, they are going to hate it because the work is not being done to enjoy the body they've got, accept the body they've got. But also showing up for themselves. Like if they don't like the body they've got, yes, there's some mental and emotional work that can be done there, but they can also change their body. They can also change how they feel about their body. And I'm not talking about like losing tons of fat or gaining tons of muscle or some stuff like that. Like if they enjoy running, get into running. Like be proud of what your body's able to do. If you're interested in getting stronger or like I said, building muscle or whatever that may mean, like get into that. Your body will naturally change, like mine did, but you still have to do the mental and emotional work to keep coming back to that. And you could always attach this to maybe like gratitude or maybe you might need to work with a therapist or a specialist to get them to give you the tools. Because we've spoken before about therapy. I mean, there's so many things I tried to do for years and years and years, and I never got there because I didn't have the tools and I didn't know the tools existed. So how could I get better at something if I didn't know it existed? So I needed to go and see someone for them to give me those tools and say, "Hey, Roy, here's the tools, here's how to use them." And all of a sudden, it just opened up a whole new world for me. So I mean, there's things that you could do, but the main thing I would always say is whatever you're trying to do, another diet and another workout plan is not gonna it's not gonna fix things. It's not gonna change how you feel about your body.
Because I know there's
It's
going to be a lot of young, maybe a lot of young men listening to this and thinking, oh, I don't feel comfortable in my body at the moment. Maybe they're in their early 20s, maybe they're, just teenagers, and they're like, if I can get as big as possible, then I will, finally be able to feel comfortable in my skin. I think a lot of, like, I remember, I think I seen a study the other day that, uh, body image issues in men is now surpassing women. And then there's a lot of that kind of muscle, uh, dysphoria as well going on. So I suppose what advice would you have for any kind of young men who might be listening to this thinking that, I need to get as big as possible in order to fix my problems?
it's not gonna work. And I agree. I've not seen that study, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, you're seeing the amount of young men, even adolescents, who are going down the road of steroids, and again, this is just showing you that it's complete evidence that they need to be bigger. It's a comparison. I mean, I never lived through it, so I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, I understand," because if they're an adolescent age or early 20s, they've grown up with social media, so they've got a different uh, type of like pressure and expectation compared to what I went through. I would honestly, and then again, it kind of comes, and I spoke about this on my post yesterday. I know I keep kind of referring to posts and stuff, but audit your feed, audit what you're consuming. If you feel that way about yourself, it's because you're being manipulated to feel that way. You are seeing someone is doing things like steroids, or maybe they're a high level CrossFitter, powerlifter, bodybuilder, influencer, or whatever. You don't know what life they've got. You don't know what they're doing, but you also do not know what issues they have.
Yeah.
Because believe me, most of them will have body image issues. Most of them will have eating disorders or disordered eating. A lot of them will have self-esteem issues. But they're using something like social media as a vehicle to promote and get some
Get
form
their
of
validation.
right, exactly acceptance, validation for themselves.
Yeah.
So and
I
of
think the
course,
I
yeah,
think the I think the paradox that people don't understand is that people think if I'm in better shape, I will be more content with my body, where it usually ends up the opposite. The more you try to get in, and it's not to say not to get in good shape or not to, be healthy and get strong, and like all these things can be a positive thing, but it can also go the other way. It's like when you constantly feel the need to improve every little critique of your body, you're hyper focused on your body and you're never content, and therefore you never end up solving the problem that was the problem in the first place, which was you weren't content with your body.
I totally agree with you there. And the other thing I would kind of come back to as well is question it. Like, why do you need to be bigger? What's it going to change? How's it going to improve your life? How is it going to change how you feel right now? Like, are you all of a sudden going to enjoy who you are as a person, and your personality because your chest is bigger? Like, it's not. Like, I can
Yeah.
tell you right now, it's
Well,
not.
I suppose if you're a 20-year-old kid, that's probably your logic that, oh, if I have a bigger chest, bigger traps, bigger biceps, that girl will finally talk to me, or I'll
Yeah,
have the confidence to talk to that girl, or whatever that reason is.
exactly. And and like I said, I used to walk around DW gym, like shoulders out with my Gold's Gym vest on.
Like a little peacock.
You know, and I used to look at some of the lasses and think, oh man, she's hot, eh? I wonder if she thinks I'm hot. You know how you're gonna find out? By talking to her. But I didn't. So it became this like weird pseudo thing. But again, this kind of comes back to your body does not, again, it does, like I would always highly encourage someone to get in shape, like
Yeah.
whatever that means to you. Like if you aspire to build your physique, great. But I would also encourage you to prioritize strength and cardiovascular health and doing things outside the gym. Join communities, join non-fitness based communities like what you do, like a hiking group or like whatever that is. Like be build build your personality, become an interesting person, you know? I mean, because we've seen these people before. Oh, what do you do in your spare time? Oh, I go to the gym. Oh, what about when you're not in the gym? Oh, I do meal prep or watch videos on Ronnie Coleman or something. And it's like,
Our favorite memes.
cool. But it's like, well, what else is there? What else is there to you, you know? And again, this is where I come back to like kind of be curious about yourself, flesh things out. Is there something that you've always wanted to do and you've just never done it? Like, why aren't you doing it? Like, push yourself to do it. If like you said, I mean, where you get these young guys who go, oh, I'm going to make myself like irresistible to women. Cool. Then do some emotional and mental work, you know,
Yeah,
like,
I think when you don't understand the voids that you're trying to fill, that's when it can become dangerous, or you can kind of tread into that difficult.
I totally agree with you. And if you do these things hand in hand, you will enjoy the body you've got or you're developing and you'll constantly be developing it. And it's not Simon Sinek talks about this where he talks about the infinite game. Like there's no rush. There's no rush. There's no rush to take steroids. There's no rush to do all this like mad shit and stuff like that. Just be better. Like if you've got an aspiration to get better at something, like what does that look like?
Mm.
Um, like how are you going to enjoy it? And like I said, how is it going to filter across into other areas of your life? You know, and like there's more to this stuff than like I said, having bigger glutes or a big deadlift or whatever. It is awesome if you want to get better at these things. I still love it. I still love feeling shit at something or like right now, like I'll just be honest, right now I'm not happy with my shoulders. And it's just because my training has changed slightly because of traveling. But I've just went, oh, cool. Well, they're not how I'd like them to be, but I can change that. But let's change it. Let's like instead of just being unhappy with them, let's go in and adapt things. enjoy them a bit more.
Do you think that it's important for someone to then really embrace enjoying the process of getting better at something rather than just wanting to change how they look, actually enjoying the process of, you know, being better in the gym, better performance, whatever it is?
Yeah, because you've got different levers, you know. You can't pull all the levers at once. You can only pull, two or three at a time. So when you do that, there's going to be trade-offs. If you like I said, if you want to get better, like in your strength, and I don't know, like I said, you want to do a bit more journaling work or whatever. Cool, that's two levers. They're your current non-negotiables at the moment. So that means there's going to be less time spent, or maybe other areas may have to be maintained. Some areas might get worse, but you have to be okay with that. And again, this is kind of comes down to the audit and accepting trade-offs. It doesn't need to be forever. I spoke with one of my clients this morning, and we were talking about the process of programming. And I says programming can always be progressive, but it's looking at how to improve something. Like you can't, and I use the squat as an example. I says, look, if you want to get better at your squat, then you can't just go in and do 3 sets of 5 forever. Like that's not going to work. If you do that, then you're going to have blind spots. So when you're doing programming over a year, you've got to look at different variations. You've got to look at reps and reserve work. You've got to look at load variations, rep schemes, pause work, double pause work, tempo work, um, front squats, back squats, high bar squats. I was like, these are all different tools that are going to keep you moving forward, but you're always going to be moving forward because you accept the trade-off by placing your focus elsewhere for a number of weeks or months. But by placing your focus there, you're then going to come back to what you originally enjoy doing, and you're going to be much better at it.
Yeah. You said that you were on a quest to get your shit together in Latin America. Tell the listeners a little bit about that. What's the thought process behind that?
You know what? Again, it was just pulling myself up.
Mm.
I mean, I kind of come back to what I said before about maintaining certain areas. Yeah, I was going to the gym 3 times a week and enjoying foods in certain areas and whatnot. When I was in Colombia, I noticed that I felt uncomfortable. I came out of the shower one day and I caught myself in the mirror and I was like, oof, yeah, you're not looking too good at the moment, Roy. It's how do you feel about that? And so I decided to go on a bit of a short-term diet. I think it was like 3 weeks. It was aggressive. And the purpose of it was just to kind of rein in some behaviors. I mean, yeah, it was to drop some weight and lean out a bit, which it worked. But I needed to get a handle on some things. Like I said, some eating behavior, some organization, routine, and whatnot. And for me, um, I didn't want to go down the route of 12 or 16 weeks. I felt like I would be giving myself a pass. I would be giving myself too much scope to flirt with like being relaxed. So I just went, right, 3 weeks, let's go aggressive. Again, I accepted the trade-off. The trade-off was mood and energy levels. But when I got to the end of it, I pulled in some things. I was like, right, okay, let's keep them tight. Um, but when I got to Peru, I lived in Peru for 2 months, and life in Peru was a bit more chaotic. Not chaotic as in like just going out and taking drugs every night and stuff like that. It was chaotic because I wanted to explore. I've loved this process of exploration, meeting people, going on tours, cities, towns, whatever that looks like, going dancing and all these things. But Peru, the it was when I use the word chaotic, like every weekend, the tours were pretty crazy. There were
Yeah,
like,
there's no routine.
oh, yeah, I was going up like mountains, I was struggling with altitude sickness, all these things. So I found it difficult to have the routine that I felt complemented me. And in that 2 month period, I lived in four different accommodations. So I was uprooting myself every so often, and I just thought, right, okay, I'm loving this. My time in Peru is incredible, but I can't keep this up. Like something needs, I need to get a handle of this. So I was going to Bolivia for 2 weeks. I was only going to Bolivia to see the salt flats. And then I knew I was going to come here to Chile for 2 months. So I went, right, let's use the 2 weeks in Chile, Bolivia. You know that you're only going there to see the salt flats. So the rest of the time, you're just going to be working, relaxing, whatever that is. So use that 2 weeks as a buffer to sit down and go, right, what needs to change? Like, but not only what needs to change, what's important to me. So that's why I didn't rush it. I didn't sit down like on a Sunday with a pen and paper and go, oh, this is what I think, this is what I'm going to avoid, and this I'm going to lean into this. I use the 2 weeks. I use the 2 weeks to really, really audit things
Mm.
and slowly implement things like what's going to work well from a metric standpoint. How am I going to measure this? Why do I need to focus on these things? What's it going to change? Is it meaningful to me? Is it going to make me feel better? Is it going to improve my quality of life? Is it easy or easier? So when I came to Chile, that was in place. So all I needed to do was my first week in Chile, go, right, let's get comfortable with Chile. What's my routine need to look like here? My shopping, my gym on my day-to-day basis, my working day, what's going on with work, and take what I created in Bolivia and then just went, right, in you go. That's it. So it really is the case of the reason I did it was just to have a bit of structure, have a bit of direction, improve my quality of life, and make sure I'm getting good sleep so I can show up the next day and enjoy the gym, not showing up the next day and dragging myself into the gym. Not, I wanted to improve how I showed up at work as well, like content creation. I noticed on some videos that I was creating, I went, oh, that's not really me. It is me, but it's not fully me because I'm forcing it.
Mm.
And I'm forcing it because my levels are lower, I wanted things to feel natural, so the reason I'm doing that vlog is to show people that I'm not doing any mad shit. I'm not going, hey, I'm gonna do 75 hard, whatever. I'm just going, hey, this is my process, this is how I'm thinking, this is what you can take from it. I'm not trying to do a sprint here. I'm trying to improve my quality of life, and I'm not trying to create like micro wins that I can post on my social media or whatever. I'm trying to create consistent, ongoing, um, multiple wins,
Mm.
and not just in my training, but in how I show up, like my personality, my emotional health, my mental health, and how I'm just enjoying life,
Mm.
you know, through overall integration.
What what have you learned about yourself since living in South America?
Dude, I trust myself
Mm. What do you mean by that?
that I'm capable. I'm capable of anything.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is I'm on my own here, man. No one's coming to save me.
Yeah.
And so this is my 10th month being in Latin America. And that process I've been in, well, not just Latin, I've been in Spain, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and now Chile. And then after Chile, I'm going to be in Argentina. Every time I've gotten to a new place, I'm starting from scratch. I've got no friends. I've got no routine. I don't know the city or the town. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the language works.
I
You
don't
know,
think people who haven't moved away for a while, they don't realize how anxiety inducing that can be. And
oof,
you're doing it multiple times.
yeah, exactly. And even though they all speak Spanish here, or except for Brazil, it's different Spanish. Like Chilean Spanish, mate. It's like I described it recently as if you were a non-English speaker and you went to Glasgow, like good luck. You know, the words are different, the phrases are different, the speed. I've been
Aberdeen to Surrey.
honestly, mate, this is my third week here, and I've only spoken to two people that I've genuinely understood them, and I've went, oh, ooh, ooh, a conversation I understand, amazing. But I tell you what, though, even though I found it really difficult, and I'm aware of it every single day, I've pushed myself into interactions, and I've went, I need to be uncomfortable. This is the only way I'm gonna, as you mentioned the word anxiety. I kind of come back to my first few weeks in Mexico. Like I remember there was one night, mate, that I was lying in my bed and I felt bad, like I felt low. I was way out of my depth. That's how I felt. I was like, I don't know the food. You know, like if you go to like Spain, for example, there's familiarity there compared to Ireland or the UK. But and when I got to Mexico, there's nothing. And I went, oh, I'm in the deep end here, and I've got nothing. I don't know anyone. My Spanish was still raw, so there was many things, and I felt very, very alone. I felt very vulnerable. I felt very exposed, and I actually went on to what's the online therapy?
Uh, uh,
BetterHelp.
help, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's called BetterHelp. Yeah.
Better help. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. So I went onto their website and I went through the application process. And I was like, I need help here. I really need help. And on the application process, it's got like a checkbox and it says, check everything how you feel. And I checked three of them and then I just stopped. And I
Mm,
looked at those three and I went, right, that's how you feel right now. Like you've got the tools here. You know how to navigate these feelings. You don't need a therapist. Like you know what to do here. So you've just highlighted this. It was almost like a form of journaling. I was like, you've just highlighted this. Time to lean into it. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And from then on, mate, I just yeah, just like I said, I remember when I go to Colombia, the speed of the language. I remember just thinking, oh no, that was my first one where I just thought I'm gonna have to keep doing this. I'm gonna have to relearn. But no, again, no one is going to do that for me. Like different food, different like environments, how to meet people, how to be interested, how to be interested.
mm,
Like you're going to have to keep building relationships. And what I, one of the things I've loved about it is, I don't know about other people's experiences, but I've genuinely built some really solid relationships.
mm.
And
Do
that
you-
came down to just
yeah, go ahead.
no, that just really came down to um not just seeing it as a something as a distraction. I was
Mm,
like, oh, I value this person.
mm.
And
Do you also think that because you're on your own and you don't know anyone and you can't fall back into old behaviors of home, that you really kind of show up as yourself?
yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you have to. Um, like if you're willing to get the best out of something, whether
Mm,
it's a connection, an experience, you're gonna have to expose yourself to that.
yeah.
Like if you walk around with a mask on, like we know this, like there's so many folk that are too scared to be themselves.
Yeah.
You look at social media, the amount of people that are just copying each other's content. Hi guys, like it's like yeah, that's not you, like you're just another fitness person copying someone else because you think they're successful, so that's what you've got to do, or how to act to be successful, or to be liked,
Yeah.
to be validated. It's like the easiest way to be validated is by showing up with yourself. If
And
if
I think as well, when you're back home and you've had similar relationships with friends and family for years upon years, you can fall into a certain character that you play because that's who you've always been.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then it's difficult not to show up as that person, let's say, when you're out with that people. But when you're on your own in a different country, you've no one to fall back on. Like, you've no one to order your food for you. You have to order your own food. You've no one to talk for you, or like your friend's not going to talk for you. You have to go up and speak to that person, whether that's whoever it is. Like, you were on your own, so like you're exposed as much as you can be.
Yeah, the example there was the food,
Mm.
because I want to experience the different foods in different countries, but the only way that I'm going to experience that is if I go to a restaurant or a market or a stall and order it. And again, that requires just exposing yourself. You have to go to that place. I mean, you've seen me, mate. I'm 6'3", I weigh like 110 kilos. I can't hide here. It's like everywhere I go, I get stared at, and and I tell you what's cool though. The people in Latin America, like I've only come across like two shit experiences so far. But everyone is super, super friendly, and they're curious. So almost not so much here in Santiago because again it's a major city, but the other countries and cities I've been to, honestly, there was almost every single day I have someone wanting to speak to me.
Mm.
I'd be in a gym and folk will come up and they'll speak to me, and I'd be in the middle of a workout and I'd be like, "Oh shit, what did they just say?" I was like, "Well, they're kind enough to come up to the grunt, like speak to them." So sometimes I'd have experiences where folk would then say, "Can I get a photo with you?" And I'm like, "Jesus, I mean, it's like, what?"
When I was in Colombia, they kept on coming up to me and they kept on saying, what is it? What is milk in Spanish again?
Leche.
Caca leche or something. They kept saying to me, and then pointing at my skin, and then it was in uh what's the beside the Caribbean island again?
Oh,
The
yeah,
main
in Colombia.
yeah, in Colombia, the city.
Cartagena.
Cartagena. I was in Cartagena and they all came up and they all started taking pictures with me because I hadn't seen a white person in so long. Thought it was hilarious. Yeah.
But again, this comes back to you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're oh, there's a speech. I love it, man. I love it. I watched this Brene Brown video
Mm.
probably probably about 6 months ago. I cannot remember the video. It was an edit that I came across on YouTube, and she references oh, it's one of the old American presidents. Ah, that's gonna annoy me now. Anyway, so there's this speech called "The Man in the Arena."
Mm.
Are you
I
familiar
know
with
it,
it?
yeah. Mm.
And she quotes it, and I went and Googled it, and I've just never forgotten it. And
Mm.
again, the Man in the Arena just summarizes this. Like you have to be exposed.
Yeah.
You have to be in the arena. You have to take the hits, like the crowd wanting you to fail, you being beaten down, but you've got to get up. And what does that mean when you get up?
Mm.
Like, what does it do? Like we've seen these movies like Rocky and in Rocky 4 where the Russians hate him, but Rocky is the man in the arena and he fights back. and then the crowd changes. They start chanting for Rocky. Like that's it's a Hollywood example, but if you're doing that every single day, like I said, I mean, I had experiences where I had conversations with people and they were shit to me, and I thought, oh man, like I thought my Spanish was better than that, or I can't believe that happened. But then 10 minutes later, I would have an amazing
Yeah.
interaction. But it didn't deter me from having the next interaction. I
Yeah.
was like, I have to keep having them.
Yeah, you have to keep facing that rejection or whatever it is, and keep showing up, and then you realize you're not made of glass.
Yeah. But what it does is it hardens your determination, it
Yeah,
hardens your resolve.
yeah,
Like it brings you out more, people go inside, people shield up. People, oh, I can't experience this again. I'm not willing to, you see people going into certain gyms or whatever that looks like, and the harden up, or they think they're hardening up. They watch like a David Goggins video or something. Oh, I've got to stay hard and stuff. And it's like, no, 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 you've got to do the opposite. You've got to keep opening up.
yeah.
You've got to remove that armor. And then you realize that the armor that you're developing is you, like your values, your principles. And then the more that you stand up and the taller that you stand, people become curious of you because you're not copying everyone else. You're not wearing the same thing. You're not copying quotes or making the same reels or whatever. You're doing something different because it's you, and you're very, very unique. And when people see that, that's where people become curious. They're like, wait, hey, who's this person? And honestly, and genuinely, that comes back to the trust. Like I had to, and I'll continue doing it. Just keep trusting myself.
Yeah. Roy, I have one more question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. Um, and that question is how do you define success right now in your life?
Okay, I'm gonna attach this to a conversation I had this week. Um, I was asked if I had any dreams recently, and then I never thought about it, and I thought, oh, I cannot remember the last time I had a dream that I remember.
Yeah.
When you wake up and you're like, oh, what a weird dream, like I had mayonnaise like all over my body, naked in a field. Like, what was that? Yeah. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was judging me. It's like, how much vodka did I have last night? But I realized that I hadn't had a dream in months, like 2 or 3 months, give or take. Now, before I left, I was having like vivid dreams, like almost every night. And I remember one particular week where I had 3 dreams where I was being killed. And I spoke to my therapist about it. And she said, oh, I'm not saying this is what it is, but this is what it could be attached to, is because you are getting ready to change your life, you're grieving, you're killing the old version of yourself. You're killing the old life, the life that it no longer serves you, and the person in that life no longer needs to be there. So you're grieving this, and that could be attached to that. And it was quite interesting because the reason I tell you that is, I don't know if this is fact or not, but this is something I came across was dreams are often thoughts that you're avoiding. If you've got stresses, concerns, fears, or whatever, when you're going navigating your day, you can just ignore it. Oh, I'll watch another episode, or I'll go for a run or whatever. But when you're dreaming, your subconscious comes to fruition. Like, don't quote me on that, but that's what I've read and heard. Now, the reason why this is important to me right now is when I realized I hadn't really had a dream in a number of months, I thought, oh, it's because I feel happy. and I'm showing up. Like I'm actually showing up. And it's like I said to you before, I'm just pushing myself. I'm going and having the conversations. I'm going into the new neighborhood or trying the new experience, like the tour over the weekend. Like this weekend, I'm going skiing. I've never skied before in my life, you know? And when I looked at like so many photos and albums and stuff, I realized the number of experiences I've had since leaving have been enough that some people will never do them in a lifetime. And it's attached to that. I'm genuinely showing up for myself,
Mm.
like really in many ways. And and it's just important to me. So coming back to the original question, like that's what's making me like I just want to keep moving in that direction.
Mm.
Like there's things that I want in life. There's things that I deeply want in life. And and I've sat down and really thought about this business wise, like what I want to do with the coaching business, where I want to take that. I've been working with a business coach over the last 5 months, and he's really, really helped me with that. And I see it, like I see it taking shape, and it's moving in the direction I want to. And I'm like, shit, this is actually happening, eh? But I think that doesn't happen if A, I'm not working with Mike, but B, I'm not being myself. Like you can, it kind of comes back to what we said before. You can work with a coach, but you have to do the work. And I'm working with him, and I'm doing the things that we're agreeing on. But I'm also doing this stuff on the other side of the fence.
Do you think if people aren't content with their life, it's because they're not showing up for themselves or not doing the scary thing, the thing that they're avoiding?
I think it's attached to it.
Yeah,
No one said, I'm not saying that you need to go and do a skydive
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. Like that could mean anything,
yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
Like it could be going along to like a live drawing class because you find art and you've got a creativity thing. You don't need to be Michelangelo, but it's going something like if you're not, again, this isn't life advice. I'm not qualified. But I mean, that's I got sick of the life that I was doing living. Like
Yeah,
I genuinely did.
yeah.
I left a relationship that I realized I was in it because a triggered and trauma-based person chose to be in it.
Mm,
That's nothing against my ex-partner. This like I chose that. There was a version of me that chose that.
mhm,
And it was an unhealthy version of me. So I would look at it like, what are you doing? And what is it attached to, you know?
mhm.
Like, are you, the people you're spending time with, some of the friends that well, I say they were friends, that I genuinely valued when I was back in Scotland. You see, since I came away, I just realized they weren't. And it's things like that. And I thought, if I was still there, I would still be spending time with them. So who's having this conversation right now wouldn't exist.
Mm. And that goes
Like,
back to that essentially even goes back to the dreams and mourning the past version of yourself that was about to be gone.
I mean, like I said, there's things in life I want, like business and personal and relationship wise and whatnot. But I genuinely, I don't hope for it now. I don't go like, oh, like, I now go, hey, I'm putting blocks in place,
Yeah.
and 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 I'm not in a hurry for it. I'm patient.
Mm.
Like I believe that I genuinely believe that I'm moving in a direction, and when those opportunities, certain opportunities come or whatever that looks like, I'll be like, cool, like I worked for this and it's happened. I'm not it's not the 10 kilos in 8 weeks thing. I'm not going, oh, it needs to happen in the next couple of months. Oh, I've worked hard for this. I'm like, cool, I'm working hard. Keep
You're
working hard.
you're you're essentially enjoying the process and not worried about the outcome, which is where
Yeah.
everyone hopes to be.
And I think that's it. And again, it kind of come back to just I don't wish to be happy because happy is a finite thing. It's a lightning in a glass. Lightning in a glass? But I do want to live a fulfilled life, though. I want to keep whatever that looks like.
Roy Rich.
Today, this conversation, going to the gym and doing some reading and whatnot. Tomorrow will be something else.
Love that. Roy Ritchie, where can people go if they want to reach out and ask you for advice, want to have a chat with you, want to reach out in terms of coaching? Where can they go to find you?
The main two places would be Instagram and Facebook. I'd give my email, but do people use email? I mean, I'll give it anyway. So my email is roy@rx2fitness.co.uk. My Instagram is same rx2.fitness, and Facebook, I think it's just rx2fitness, or you could just type in my name, Roy Ritchie, Ritchie, because people don't seem to recognize there's a T in Ritchie. Well, there it is. I mean, and I'm like you, I'm on these things most days, and I love a conversation. It's called social media for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. Roy, thank you very much for today. I always enjoy our chats, and I hope you can continue to do them going into the future as well. Thanks for watching. If you like that episode and you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.